There are 16 reactions and sub-reactions in Genshin Impact, and today we're going to talk about the best team for all of them. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The Black Clover cast is reunited with Black Clover M: Rise of the Wizard King. This is a brand new anime turn-based gacha game and has already hit #1 in 100+ countries' App Store charts. The game has a beautifully rendered 3D world with many areas you can explore, built with Unreal Engine 4, and features beautifully recreated classic Black Clover scenes. Collect from an incredible cast of characters, assemble your perfect team, and engage in beautifully rendered battles with a classic and very polished anime art style. The game is very free-to-play friendly, with every new player being guaranteed an SSR. My favorite is definitely the Noelle swimsuit character. The game is very accessible to new players, with a satisfying and rewarding combat system. It's great for casual players, but also has a lot of depth. Join now to get a chance to access the brand new SSR, the Wizard King. He's extremely strong and really fun, so you definitely don't want to miss him. All this, plus the fact that the Christmas holiday time is perfect to download and try out the game. So what are you waiting for? Download Black Clover M: Rise of the Wizard King now, and huge thanks to them for sponsoring this video. We're going to start off by defining best. This is not just highest DPS ceiling. I also incorporate my personal bias and my personal preference into each of these teams, because the goal of the game, at least for me, is to have fun curb stomping the abyss. As long as a team hits a certain threshold and clears it really fast, it doesn't need to be the fastest to be the best. If it's significantly more comfortable and it clears in a minute, that to me is preferable than being a bit less comfortable and clearing in 45 seconds. So this is not meant to be a fully objective ranking. I would love to hear how your opinions differ in the comments. Starting off with reaction number 1, Vaporize, the OG best reaction in the game. I'm basically of two minds here. I either think it's going to be some form of Hu Tao team that's going to be the best Vaporize team, or a national team, whether that be Sucrose or Child National. Personally, since this is my list, I'm going to give it to Hu Tao, especially the new Hu Tao Double Hydra with Farina, Yelan, and Jean. Yes, it can be a little bit tricky to play Hu Tao without a shielder. You have to get extra good at doshing and dashing, but man, the damage is insane on this team. If you want something a little bit more comfortable, the OG Hu Tao Double Hydro is amazing as well. And Sucrose National never fails to clear. And if you want to try something spicy and new, slotting Farina into the Hydro slot for some Vaporizes the opposite way is so satisfying and really good. I know a lot of people are also going to hit me up in the comments saying that Novelette Vaporize is the best Vaporize team. And while I hear you, it cheats really well. The DPS is technically very, very high. But this is kind of one of the examples that I was talking about where, yes, the team is very good, but having to play in Xiangling's melee range without any resistance interruption on your Novelette is just cancer if you don't have C1 Novelette. So for sure, if you have C1 Novelette, I can see this team being absolutely freaking cracked. But if you just have C0, for me personally, it does not make the list. Reaction number 2, Hyperbloom. 100%, this is the team that I go to if I'm struggling clearing any content. You can go with the newfangled Hyperbloom featuring Farina, the tried and true Double Hydro, or the I need my other Hydro on the other side, so I'm gonna slot in Fischl. All of these play about the same, and if you happen to have your Alhaitham, you can swap them in either for this slot or have Farina and Yelan. I'm going to give the best version of Hyperbloom to the Alhaitham one. I haven't decided yet if it's the Yelan version or if it's the Farina. I do tend to think it's Farina because I love having multiple characters that do lots of DPS in the downtime or to finish off little waves, and Farina is great for that. Plus, you get the front load from Alhaitham, but Double Hydro is really nice too because it reduces that ER needs. Hyperbloom is, I really find Hyperbloom a lot of fun, even though it's really brain dead. So if you're struggling with the Abyss and you like any of these characters, give it a build. You can also switch out, if you're not running Farina, you can switch out Kuki for Raiden, living a bit more on the edge, but you can play from a bit more of range. So really love it. There is definitely an argument to be made for Novelette to be the best Hyperbloom team. Novelette does absolutely crazy damage. I think if I had to rank them, I'd be Alhaitham number 1, just barely edging out Novelette at number 2, especially since if you don't have C1 Novelette, it might be pretty hard to slot in a defensive option while also keeping the max damage possible. And then putting double Hydro, Hyperbloom, or like the more traditional on-fielder Nahida variant in number 3, but all 3 are honestly so broken that it doesn't really matter. Time for mono teams. So what's it going to be? We got mono Geo. People talk about mono Cryo. Nope, it's mono Hydro Novelette. Now I know it's only 2 Hydros, but it only does Hydro damage, so I would still consider this a mono team. This is, to me, the most comfy Constellation Zero Novelette team to play, and it clears every other mono team. It's not even close. I do want to shout out Linny Mono Pyro. I think Linny Mono Pyro is extremely good. Definitely a contender. I think Hyper Wanderer could be considered mono Animo. That's definitely a contender. Zhao is a contender. Ito, unfortunately, I think gets cleared by all of these characters and their mono teams, which is maybe the saddest part about Geo in general, is that its main claim to fame is mono Geo, but it isn't even the best mono team. Oof, sorry Ito mains. I'm a big proporter of mono Cryo, but I'm under no delusion that any of these teams clears mono Hydro, Novelette, the GOAT. Next reaction is Bloom. I mean, the only good team that Bloom has is Nilou. The only other team that even tries to be Bloom is like some sort of Kave team, which is, yeah, we don't talk about Kave on this channel. For the best version of Nilou, it really depends. Kokomi is often great here. You can put Kale into the Baiju slot. Some people really like that. My personal go-to for AoE is the Ayato Baiju version or the Kokomi Baiju version. I truly love the Yao Yao Candace version, and I know people hate me for this, but in abysses that have a lot of single target elements, I love Baiju Farina. It's just so good to actually get some raw damage on top of the Bloom damage so that when you're in single target situations, you can perform a lot better. And Farina makes Nahida's damage on this team really, really good as well. So love it. Next reaction is Spread. This is pretty obvious. Alhaitham Spread is the best. I think the only question is whether or not Kuki or Zhongli is best on as the last slot. I think Kuki is probably my favorite pick because she can run instructors, she can run Sapwood Blade as a 4-star option or one of the 5-star options, and she gives more energy to Yai, allowing her to burst slightly more often, which is just going to increase the overall damage of the team. But if you're playing against really aggressive enemies, you can go with Zhongli. Next is Crystallize. Noelle has the crown for now. We all know Navia is coming next patch. I'm sure Navia will take the crown, at least I think she will. Some people are really big proponents of Noelle and think she's really insane. It doesn't have to be this version. Instead of Kazuha, you can run Goro, and that maybe makes it a bit more true to its Crystallized origins. You can put Albedo in the Yelan slot here, but Noelle, massive buffs from Farina. You do need to have your Noelle very invested. My Noelle is still not invested enough. Her shield keeps breaking, so I have to rely on other people's word as I continue to build her up, but Noelle repping Crystallize. The biggest boon for her that actually really makes it a Crystallized team is someone's holding the Archaic Petra, which really boosts Yelan and Farina's damage. And that'll be either Goro if he's on the team or Noelle herself if you're using someone like Kazuha. Next is Swirl, and almost all the reactions, or almost all the teams we've had so far, have utilized the Swirl reaction. But I tried to think which team used the most swirls, and I think it's double Animo Aggrevate. I love double Animo Aggrevate. I think it's extremely fun. You put ideally Kazuha on Thundering Fury artifact set and give him Sacrificial Sword, so he's just spamming his skill constantly. You're keeping enemies sucked in with Venti. You're getting tons of Electro from Fischl. One of the most fun teams in the game. If you have these units, try it out. You don't need Baiju. This could be Yao Yao. This could be Kirara, or it could even be Kale. If you're living on the edge, you give her Elegy for the end, boost the team. This will only work if you're really good at grouping enemies and the Abyss is not too aggressive. Superconduct is next. Of course, it's Eula. I think this team still has a ton of issues, but it is definitely the best Superconduct team in the game. I'm not going to talk too long on it, otherwise the Eula mains will hate me. Moving on to Shatter, it might still be this team. This team does have Shatter in it. It doesn't utilize Shatter, however. So I guess you probably got to give Shatter to some sort of Fremine team. I mean, this is probably Fremine's best team, and you actually do use Shatter if you're fighting an AoE. So we'll give it to Fremine. Next is Electrocharge, my current favorite team in the game. is double Hydro, Raiden with Farina, Yelan, and Jean. This team is just way too comfy. It's way too strong. The infinite interruption resistance is way too good. Raiden does get a ton from her signature weapon in this team, which I do have, as opposed to in Hyper Raiden or any Raiden with Bennett team, whereas Raiden doesn't get nearly as much out of his signature weapon. So if you don't have it, it might not feel as good, but it's still really, really fun and satisfying. It's actually Raiden's new best team and is one of the best users for the double Hydro core. Obviously, Hu Tao edges it out in DPS, but from a pure comfort and usability standpoint, with Raiden having infinite interruption resistance and just solving the ER issues of your team. Not that you have that many from this team, but it lets you get away with more offensive weapons. Oh, this team is just chef's kiss. It's my favorite team in the game. I also think there's a pretty good argument to be made for the traditional Sucrose Taser team. Official Beta Xingqiu is just such a strong core. They're incredible in AoE, especially using Sucrose on field for grouping. You can also use Sacrificial Sword Kazuha. This team might arguably be a bit more true to the Electrocharge roots. It actually utilizes the Electrocharge reaction more. The Raiden Yelan Farina team really is more of a double Hydro team than it really is an Electrocharge team per se. So if you want to give it to this one, by all means. The majority purpose of this video is to give you team ideas and to get you thinking about all the different reactions and the different types of teams, not really to give a hard and fast ranking. So I think if you want to put this team at the top spot, then that makes a lot of sense. For Freeze, of course, it has to be Ayaka. Her traditional most premium team is still to this day my favorite. I think her new version with Farina is awesome, and it gives free-to-plays or less dedicated Ayaka mains a great alternative option that's really competent, but it doesn't hit the levels of her traditional premium team. I love this team. It's amazing. I know a lot of people get varying results with Ayaka because it really depends on how you play her, how you position her burst, when you use it, how you deal with multi-wave stuff. But in terms of Freeze, there's no question about it. This is my very favorite team. For Melt, my favorite team is definitely Wriothesley. I know I've seen some incredible clears with Ganyu. I think she's a very strong character and very good in Melt. I personally think the ease of use of Wriothesley Melt makes it maybe more fun and better. The fact that I can use Shenhe and get some grouping with Kazuha, not needing a shielder, not needing egregious ER on my Xiangling. Yes, this is my favorite Melt team. But Burn Melt, shoutouts to Burn Melt. Burn Melt's really, really good. Maybe something like Nahida here. You can use Yaya, you can use Toma. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do that. Burn Melt is great. For Overloaded, this is probably going to be my favorite Overloaded team. Once Chevers comes out, it's going to be Raiden with Xiangling, and Chevers is buffing both Raiden and Xiangling. This is a team that's purely focused on Overloaded, but whether you're using Raiden National, you get some more Overloads with Yelan, and generally higher damage, but you also get a lot of Overloadeds with Hyper Raiden, with Bennett Kazuha, or by replacing Kujusar with Fischl or with Yaimiko or any of those other characters. So yes, Raiden Overloaded, definitely the best Overloaded team. For Burgeon, I think it's Ayato Toma as my favorite Burgeon, but I do quite like the Xingqiu Fischl variant. Whoops. My main issue with it is that if you accidentally start yourself burning, you just die because you don't have any healing to make up for it. If you're in single target, you can use Baiju, but like, what's the point of that since it's an AoE team? You can also use Xingqiu and use Baiju on field and then have Nahida off field. Lots of different Burgeon options, but definitely Toma the GOAT here. For Aggrevate, either it's the team I already showed with Venti Kazuha, or it's the Yaimiko variant. This team just does so much damage. I think the Kaching version is fun. I think the Sino version is fun, Kaching version, but Yaimiko definitely my favorite. And then finally for Burning, double Animo Burning, really, really fun, really, really good. It's when AoE is not good in this Abyss because the Pyro Electors, you can't burn their shields off, but when this team works, it's so much fun. Venti and Kazuha on the same team are just amazing. I don't like it quite as much as the Aggravate version, but if you just want to see Nahida burn her enemies alive, it's a great, great team. I'm sure I missed some of your favorite teams. Let me know in the comments what you think the best team of every reaction is. Let me know which ones you think I got it wrong. If there's any really cool teams that I forgot that I didn't think of, I'll add them to the pinned comment, so definitely comment your favorites. Bye for now.